right, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming down tonight. We are live from Books and Books in Coral Gables, Florida, so a note to our internet audience watching at home. If at any time during the presentation you'd like to purchase a copy of tonight's book, you can call the number on your screen. We'll take care of that for you. We will get it signed, and we will have it shipped to wherever you are in the United States free of charge. Also, a note to all you Books and Books fans out there. Please note that we have a new location in the Carnival Tower of the Adrienne Arsht Center for the Performing Arts downtown. We have a beautiful new restaurant and bookstore there, so please visit Books and Books at the Arsht. So this evening, Books and Books is very happy to welcome back our old pal Tim Dorsey, presenting his new novel, Sharkskin Suite. Tim was a reporter and editor for the Tampa Tribune from 1987 to 1999. And as you all know, he is the author of 17 other novels, including, and I always love getting a chance to read Tim's titles, Tiger Shrimp Tango, The Riptide Ultra Glide, Pineapple Grenade, Electric Barracuda, Nuclear Jellyfish, Atomic Lobster, I'm sensing a pattern, Cadillac Beach, The Stingray Shuffle, and Triggerfish Twist, and that is just to name a few. In this book, his lovably deranged lead character, Serge Storms, has found a new calling, Legal Eagle, and he's going to make a killing as a crusading attorney and star as a dashing lawyer on the big screen in this madcap escapade that goes everywhere from the Florida locations of such legal classics as Body Heat, Cool Hand Luke, and Absence of Malice to a Key West courthouse at the height of the island's raucous Fantasy Fest street carnival. Here to tell us more about it, please give a very warm welcome to our friend Tim Dorsey.
Yeah. Is that the camera?
That's the camera, but you could...
No, I gotta, hold on. This is the first for me, so. Got it.
We got one over there, too. It's a very sophisticated operation.
Oh.
We got two cameras.
I see. So basically, please go with that one, otherwise you'll get the Alfred Hitchcock kind of thing on the side. Well, thank you for coming tonight. I am now this is great that I can actually do this. I'm now such a big deal. And I have a daughter going off to college, and another one going off the year next. So I figured, well, got to sell some hot sauce. So this is Serge's hot sauce. Every bottle signed. It's not available yet on the web or whatever. I just had some sample bottles and taking around on tour. But let me see if you have any questions. If you don't, I'm going to dive into a couple typical questions that I get on the tour. So raise them on up. I don't have a job. I'm here. They're still having me for whatever reason. I think this is my 18th time here at Books and Books. So yes, over here.
I wanted to know, what kind of research did you do during Fantasy Fest?
Oh, I avoided it. I no, it's just too much. It's like Vegas. It's just nuts. But no, I've got plenty of material, because people were saying, you gotta eventually put Fantasy Fest, in the books. And so, as memory serves from stuff I've seen, I was able to. I don't want to give it away because it kind of builds toward that. Fantasy Fest is building and the plot of the book is building, and then they collide at just the perfect time. So, but the other thing though is I got to get in, and this is what I always love to do. I got to get in all of the trivia from over the years around Key West. While I don't want to give too much away, but Brooke from the previous book, kind of Serge's flame. He gives her a tour, and she's one of the few people that likes, because he can be withering. That's why Coleman has to be self-medicated. But she keeps up with him and loves his trivia, and that's the way to his heart, is to accept his offering of trivia. So he takes her to the chart room and points things out, and then around to Captain Tony's. And if you don't know, everybody knows Captain Tony's, but people go in there a million times and not notice certain things. Like there's a Kool-Aid jug from Jim Jones's, literally, it's hanging from under the bar and stuff like that. There's a chastity belt. There's all kinds of weird things. There's tombstones, the real ones, and growing up through the center is the hanging tree. If you don't that, but that was Town Square where they would have the hanging, and Tony was going to cut it down because it was grows up, it was growing through the roof and everything. And but anyway, so that's and that was kind of a labor of love for me, setting it there, because it was like I was doing the book and it was in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm like, we need to change a venue. What would be great? Have a so all the lawyers go down to Key West, and there's this one in Sharkskin Suite. There's this one suite where like one of the head lawyers from the law firm that's on the other side of the aisle from Brooke, who gets her law degree and is trying this class action case. He keeps meeting with his team and like, what is going wrong with this trial? You got a rookie and you're getting your, derriere handed to you. And so that's the namesake, the title. So let me get some other, yes, back here.
I lived in Key West and I love reading your books.
Oh, thank you.
Fort Lauderdale too. So reading them, it's literally like I'm in the car with Serge. I recognize things in the books because I lived there. Oh, you may have been asked this, in the past, but have you ever thought of collaborating with Carl Hyson and do a duo book? Because I always thought it'd be so cool, like maybe on the lam and they're out in the middle of the woods just for a brief second, and there's the governor, and then you're out of it. And just, like.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, see, I'm so in awe of Carl. I mean, he's one of my heroes, and he's been an inspiration. Like when way before I got published, I was just reading his books and. Just had a dream, I said, well, it'll never happen that I'll get published or whatever, but I kept writing, and that was my pursuit ever since I was in high school, is I wanted to, have a novel published, and then, my agent, I didn't know anything about the book business, and he said, I sold the book, and I also sold your next book, and I'm like, what? And of course, that's the way the publishing world works, is if they're going to buy one book, if it happens to be good and sell well, they don't want you to be a free agent and go to another publisher, so they get you in a contract for 2 books. So,
He's in a cameo, Carl.
yeah, well, I because I wanted to give a shout out. I gave a shout out to him, and I gave a shout out to Dave Barry and James Hall, and I gave kind of a negative shout out to Randy Wayne White because he's a liar, but no, he's actually one of my best friends among the gang. And I went into a Delray Beach bookstore. And it's funny because people ask, do you know each other? Different writers. Like what Florida writers are you? And pretty much it's you do enough of the book festival circuit that you get to know each other and stuff. And they said, well, what do you do? Do you text? Do you call each other? You hang out or whatever? And I said, well, and I took a picture of this actually and put it on Facebook. I said, actually, forget social media. This is how it works. And I went and Randy had a signing in Delray Beach. About a couple weeks before I was there, whatever. So I get there, and before my signing, I went in the back of the bookstore, and I went in the restroom, and on the wall is this graffiti that Randy has written insulting me. For mediocre time, call Tim Dorsey 1-800-SURGE STORM, whatever. So I came out of the bathroom and I said, somebody give me a magic marker. And so I went back in and I wrote arrow to it, and I wrote something, and I put, your chum Tim. And what I wrote was, remember your novel 12 Mile Limit? Should have been 12-word limit. And so that's, anyway, that kind of, you got to kind of be inventive with the whole new Facebook thing. And so that kind of made the rounds. A lot of people shared that. I was
out fishing down in Homestead, Florida City.
Right.
And when you get out near the power plant, at the entrance to that is about a 100-foot T-Rex statue. And I'm pulling up on this, and the first thing that came to mind is, Serge would love this.
Well, now I'm there.
Yeah,
I gotta go.
As you're pulling in, it's like, what is this doing here? This is a full T-Rex.
Yeah. Now I'm going to be late for my signing tomorrow in Key West, so because I'm going to be going down. So, anyway, over here.
Doc Ford has a restaurant. Do you think Serge will ever have a restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, if they, some entrepreneur wants to approach me, sure. I mean, going the hot sauce route, kind of. Like I said, got to take care of your family. Yeah.
Have you ever been approached to do movies? This is be a great series of movies. And if so, who would you have as Serge?
Well, the answer to we have option. That's what they call optioning, and people buy the rights. And there's one studio that had it and renewed it and tried, and they were trying to do cable series as well as, and then they tried to do a feature film, and it wasn't coming together. So they let it lapse, and it reverted back to us. And then these other people were interested, and then it went back and went to these other people, and it's probably the rights are probably been in somebody's hands now for over a decade. And they've come up with a screenplay for Florida Roadkill, but they have the rights to the whole series essentially under the contract. But in as far as who would play, and I say this after this many years and after staring at what college is I mean, it blows my mind. I mean, because I had no idea. I mean, I know cost of living has changed, but not like. Anyway, so my answer is just, the first person to sign the contract to play Surge, just make the movie. It's just that way I don't have to. I can get my dignity back, and I don't have to do this anymore. So, if you see all the crap I'm selling on my website, all the hats and shirts and stuff, I'm going to branch out into bumper stickers soon. But
I think the reason I was cracking up is I remember someone saying, so for Surge, casting Buscemi? Steve Buscemi, right?
I was thinking Jim Carrey.
Well, see, and also it'd be a little out of school for me to say anything because I know who they've been showing it to and who they're going to show it to and stuff like that. And so it's just I got to put it out of my mind because
It's an option. Yeah.
if it happens, it'll be like my agent says, it'll just be like lightning, striking out of the blue. You won't, so just don't even just cash the checks and don't think about it. But yeah, it would be cool, But they're talking. It's the weirdest. I mean, Hollywood is so strange. I mean, that's how I came up with the book, The Big Bamboo, because that was based upon, pretty much the books are like whatever strike me as odd or interesting or new that's happened in my life since the last book. And for that one, I was out in California, in LA, and I was having, I'm not going to use the word taking, meetings or whatever, but I was having meetings, and I'd go to lunch with these people and then go over to this studio and talk to these development people, and it's just a different culture. It's so weird. It's just anyway, who knows what'll happen, but they were talking about, well, we'll probably shoot it in North Carolina or Louisiana, and I'm like, but so they're about Florida, It's like, what do you? And it's like, yeah, but it's a money thing. Because their answer was, well, there's certain tax credits that are like a coefficient to the deal, and it's all about the foreign distributors want to see that. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what you're doing. As we can tell every time we go to the movie theater and we see another movie about a comic book hero, They're risk averse, but as soon as some one thing happens, we're probably going to have like 1 million 50 Shades of Grey movies coming out, in different permutations pretty soon. So.
Oh, God help us! They actually already said there's a new Twilight series coming.
Oh my gosh!
Maybe you need to make Surge into a comic to get it into a movie.
No. He could get a uniform.
Novel,
I'll tell you a story. This is a question that I got asked, and this isn't part of a shtick or anything, but one thing people ask is like about how do I come up with the unusual murder methods, and basically my explanation is that when life's going great, I have problems. I have to like work on that and come back to it later, and but when other stuff, this is the chord I've struck with my audiences. They tend to be, my publisher was thinking who to market to, and they think it's maybe young guys, underground, because they're edgy books in certain ways, and this sort of 18 to 24-year-old male, subversive, anarchist, whatever. And I'm like, no, it's the people who are like maybe counterintuitive, but it's just like Main Street, picket fence, people, kids, grandkids, the ones not only who are law-abiding, but also the ones who uphold the unwritten, rules of common courtesy, because rudeness is on the rise, and so it's the ones when they don't get in confrontations. They come across these jerks in society, and you take the high road. You got to bite your lip, but you walk away and it bugs. You did the right thing, and it's the way I feel, and so I used to feel the same way. It's like I walked away and you think, I wish I could have said this. I should have said that. Oh man, I should. And then I catch myself and I go, no, you did exactly the right thing, but the price you pay for doing the right thing bugs you. Well, it doesn't bug me anymore because I get inspired because this person is now in a loop in my head until I can, get it out into the computer. And I'll give you an instance. The methods of surge dispensing of people, they just come to me when I'm properly inspired. And I'll give you an example. My other daughter, a little bit ago, turned 16, And so she got her first job, and she worked in one of these new, it's not that well known, but it's one of these newer upscale fast food places, and their kind of niches. It's healthy fast food. You know, they air fry, which is there's no frying. It's like some supercharged air thing, and they have all this nutritious stuff, and it's like pastels and brushed chrome furniture. You know, you're still getting your food really fast, but you feel like you're eating in a better place. And so she's so cute. She's got a little visor and her name tag or whatever. And one thing that they do nice for the kids is they give them a tip cup, right? And but they don't really get tipped. It's just if there's some loose change, and they put it in a little cup, and it's a nice little thing they do for the kids. You know, they're starting out, and so I came home from I was about 3 or 4 nights on the road, and I came in the house, and my wife stops me, and she goes, hold on, Aaron, tell your dad what happened at work today. Okay. You're going to know this guy. I mean, it's like Hemingway. All you need is a couple details. Okay, he's got like this really expensive tennis shirt, right? And he walks into the place, and he's got like designer Porsche sunglasses, but they're not in his head. They're hanging from his mouth by one of the ear pieces. That guy. We already know, right? So, and I've already written this. I mean, I stopped writing, and I wrote this thing, and so Serge, he sees him with the sunglasses already. He's like, so it's already going down the wrong path. And so my daughter says he comes up and he tries to order, but she can't understand it because he's got sunglasses in his mouth. And she finally takes it out and orders. And then I know I've seen people like this. The assistant manager's walking by, and he didn't say this to get data. He did it for the benefit of the people around him to hear him. And he said something like, "Excuse me, how much is it, for down payment to, put a bid in for one of your new franchises in this market or whatever?" And she's like, "I don't know. I just watch the kids, But like he can't just be among us and break bread, like another civilized person. He's got to let us all know. Unlike you, I can buy this building, And so that guy. So, this is a long story, well worth it. Trust me. So he sits down, and then he decides at the end he wants dessert, right? And so they have these healthy cookies or whatever, and they're like New Age cookies. And then in what I wrote, I have Coleman, ask Serge, what's a New Age cookie? And Serge says, baked by prisoners of conscience, So anyway. So he goes up. And my daughter's telling me this. He orders the cookie from her. She gets it, gives it to him, and he pays for the cookie out of her tip cup. Oh. Well, he didn't die quickly. See, because I asked my daughter, I said, "How much is a cookie?" And she said it was like with tax, like $1.06 or whatever. And I got out my wallet, and I think I gave her like $20. And I said, "You have no idea how much money you just brought into the family today." So this guy it went on for chapters. Just stretched it. But it's just amazing what, I thought, because I feel like I'm pretty streetwise, and I've seen a lot, newspapering, and the bar's of human behavior is really low as far as what I can potentially believe. But man, this guy, I was in shock. This guy like dug a trench for the bar. So, anyway. Hey, Mitchell, good to see you. Give me some more questions. Over here.
So, you've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
And over so many books. How do you keep it all straight?
Does it look like I do? No, it almost is like one long book because it's this arc, and it's almost a narrative arc of like my experience with Florida and how it's my reaction to my environment, and someone actually correctly surmised this because they're asking how much of you is in the books, and if you remember Jim Davenport and his family, Martha and the children or whatever, and how Jim is like worried about his family, and he has like impulse control, and he keeps meeting Serge or whatever, and he stresses about. It's like I never had any stress or worry in my life until I had kids, and then it was just through the roof. I was worried, and my kid, and when they were even really really small, that they nicknamed me, and it was not an affectionate nickname. They called me Safety Dad because I would like imagine every possible peril, and anyway. So somebody said that I believe that you've put yourself in the books and you're a split between Jim Davenport and Serge. And that's true, because the part of Surge that doesn't have impulse control, that's the Jim Davenport where I do, and I think things through, and I have sort of a consequence horizon, where I, kind of think, what might transpire. But the part of Surge where it has this sort of boyish impetuosity, and he's just this childlike curiosity and zeal about finding out new things about Florida. That's me. I love to, I'm fascinated. I love to read history books about Florida and go, the journalism part, the firsthand visiting, locations and talking to locals and taking notes and stuff like that. That's definitely me. And that's part of this is like the best job description I could have, because I start off with a blank slate. And if because people ask, sometimes there's other stars in the books, main characters that are almost equal to Surge or whatever, and I'm explaining, those who are really familiar with the books know that the main star of the books is the state of Florida. And so I start off with, what would, because if the writing a book, when you're under contract, if you have to write a book, like if I was assigned what to write, like a book, it's so much work that it would be painful, it would be torture. But if you like to write and you get to pick, and so I try to think what, like with this book, or with previous books like Pineapple Grenade, and I said to myself, what part of Florida would just really inspire you, where you'd like to go? Because before I come up with a plot, I'll go to an area and walk around. And so it was Miami in that one, and I went down and I just parked the car and I just spent the day, walking up and down Calle Ocho and going to Maximo Gomez Park and, and going to, Versailles and all those, interesting places, and with my camera taking, ridiculous amounts of photography. And so that's where I begin each book is, where would I like to just plant myself and just get into the rhythm of the area. And then you start picking up, storylines, that, locals will tell you about. That happened to a tremendous degree in Electric Barracuda when I went down to the Everglades. So I went to the Chokoloskee, I went to the Smallwood store, which it was actually operating still into the 80s, and it became a museum, and I talked to people in there, and they gave me local stories that you really, you can't find. I even tried to look them up on the internet and couldn't find them, so I ended up going out and finding some locals that lived there for years and years and years, and they would tell me firsthand, about Al Capone coming out there and a variety of things. But anyway, let me take some other questions. Oh, over here, thank you.
I haven't read all the books, but are any of them set in any of the backwoods, rural counties in Northwest Florida, Panhandle?
The next book is actually, it's got quite a bit of that, and it's about, it's kind of, Surge gets hung up on Easy Rider, the movie, and you go like, well, what's that got to do with Florida? Because he's got to be hung up on something Florida. Well, the thing about it is that they were, in the movie, their goal, their holy grail was they wanted to get to Florida. That was their idea of paradise, that was their goal. And so Florida, first time Surge was watching the movie, he's like, and I'm not giving anything away, we all watched Easy Rider, right? So they leave Mardi Gras in New Orleans, and they're heading out of Louisiana, and they're about to go to Florida. And Surge said the first time he was watching the movie, he goes, oh, this is going to be the best part, and then they get blown away, and he goes, what? So then he said he waited for the DVD to come out, because he wanted to search the bonus material to see if there was an alternate ending, and no luck. So he and Coleman went, so they're in Louisiana, and Coleman is like, and this was actually one of the most, I actually found this out a couple of years ago, and I read a lot about it, and it wasn't, people ask about doing research, and it's just me finding something out, and I get really curious, and it's fascinating, and I actually feel like I'm goofing off. But what happened was, and Coleman says, well, we're in Louisiana. Don't you, because you always kind of, hate to leave the state, and you kind of get all squirrely until you can get back across the state line. And Surge says, well, actually, we were in Florida. And what happened was, you think, okay, well, Louisiana Purchase, okay, yeah, I remember that day in school, 1803, $3 million, Thomas Jefferson, blah, blah, blah. And Coleman says, I was sick that day. So anyway, if the state of Louisiana, the purchase was west of the Mississippi River, if you remember that. So if you think of the state of Louisiana, you got that L shape. Well, what's that little L that's east of Mississippi River? And back in the early, see, this is really weird. Back in the early 1800s, within the United States, there was a separate, independent, and it wasn't just this little fly-by-night little thing. There was a separate independent country within the United States called the Republic of Florida. And it had, literally, they elected branches of legislature, and they had a court system, and they had a president, and I think Skip Fulworth was the first president. They had a constitution, they had a flag, which is a blue flag with a circle of white stars, and this was Republic of Florida, and it was in Louisiana, because the Panhandle went all the way to the Mississippi back in the day. And what happened was, and of course, the United States, particularly Andrew Jackson, was like really just, merciless about grabbing, land and stuff, with the Indians and everything. Eastern Florida was ruled by the British, Western Florida, Spanish. And this was like, to think about this, the military installation in Florida that the Spanish used to control their area of Florida was in Baton Rouge. Right? Louisiana State, LSU, that used to be in Florida at one time. And so so basically there are, Louisiana is the one out of the 50 states that has parishes instead of county because Napoleonic law and influence. So there's 7, including St. Tammany Parish, which if you know the movie, that's where they were in when they got shot. They got killed at the end of the movie. But those 7 parishes to this day, and they're historic markers, and the locals refer to them as the Florida parishes. And so Serge is out there, and of course now that's the history underpinning that I got excited about. But so I have to make it digestible and entertaining to give my little history lesson in the book. And what happened was, by the way, it lasted a little while because the United States, they didn't, the federal government didn't want to get involved with they knew this was happening. What happened was the English settlers in Western Florida, they didn't like the Spanish rule, so they formed a militia and they attacked the garrison at Baton Rouge and they overthrew it, and then they started their government in Republic of Florida. And so the federal government waited a while, and then finally, after, because they said, we didn't have anything to do with that, Spain, we don't want to go to war with you, and it was those people. And then, after a little while, they said, hey, nice job with the Spanish, down there, we'll take that land now, please. And so Serge was out there with Coleman, and they get a chopper, Easy Rider, and so they're going through, I think St. Tammany Parish, and they see a farm, and there's this big hill, and Serge, gets off, and he goes, this is as good a place as any, and Coleman goes, for what? And he goes, just, grab my camera and follow me. And he climbs up to the top of the hill. He's got this telescoping pole, jams it down on the ground and unfurls this blue flag with the white stars, and then he stands next, Coleman, take my picture, and he goes, what are you doing? And he says, I've just reclaimed the parishes for Florida, it's 91 days and counting now, we're moving forward. And then this farmer, comes up, and Serge has a gun under his tropical shirt, right? So this farmer, starts coming up the hill in a tractor, and he goes, hey, what the hell are you doing on my land, or whatever? And then Serge, exposes his gun, and he says, you may continue farming if you pledge your allegiance to the new Republic of Florida. And the guy sees the gun, and he takes off running, and Serge says, recaptured without a shot fired. And and then Coleman suddenly goes, wait, what just happened? We formed our own country? And Serge says, yeah, the Republic of Florida is back in business, we're open for, and so then Coleman goes, and he gets totally jazzed and starts getting really excited. This is fantastic, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah. And then Serge says, Coleman, you're usually bored by my history stuff. You usually, just want me to get it over with so you can get to the next bar or whatever. And Coleman goes, no, this is great. This is the greatest day of my life. I'm going to call my friends. This is fantastic. And Serge says, this is a very promising development. This is, Coleman, there may be, hope for you yet. And Coleman says, yeah, our own country, yeah. So pot's legal, right? So, and he goes, yeah, no, I'm going to be the drug czar, except the cool kind, I'll sit on a throne, I'll say, yes, you may be stoned, let it be written, and so then they come through, and the whole thing about, and this is off this one question. Well, by the way, you're not supposed to talk about the next book. You were trying to sell this, but he says. So anyway, he's driving through, and he says what they did in Easy Rider was all about small towns. If you remember Little Jail and this and that, and except for Mardi Gras, but it was all about small towns. So Serge, was off the interstate in the chopper, and he's visiting all these small towns, and along the way he goes in in one of the stops. And I name the towns along the Panhandle, and he goes to Greenville, and he goes and he finds, the childhood home of Ray Charles, and then he goes and sees the Ray Charles statue, and it's a very small town. And again, he's saying, he's tired of people thinking Ray Charles was from Georgia because of the whole, state song in Georgia and everything. And then he continues through these small towns talking about, the trivia, in each one. And he goes up to Live Oak, and he goes to the Spirit of Swanee Music Park, and then he's exploring as he works his way down, into Florida. So yes, it does get into that. So, but please buy this book first, and then you can get to that one next year.
Does he go back to Florida?
No, because he comes in across the top.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he comes in at Century, which is up in the upper left corner. And he's talking about how Lawton Childs, he's going to also follow part of Lawton Childs Trail, and explains that Lawton Childs was actually walking that route when Easy Rider was still in first run in the theaters. When Lawton Childs, it's true, it's just, he did his 1,003-mile journey from Century to Key West. And I know, yeah, more news you can't use, as they say. What other, yes?
Just a question. You do have some fascinating trivia in some of these books. Does the storyline get built around the trivia first?
Yes.
Or does the trivia
I start
go
off
into the storyline after the fact?
Well, the fun of it was like the first book, and I had all the places that I wanted to talk about, and that's when Serge, being sort of, manic and obsessed with Florida, because like when he's behind the wheel of the car, he can get distracted, and so I had all of these locations, but they were, they were kind of scattered, and it wasn't very linear. But I figured put him behind the wheel of the car, and it's like as the moth flies, he could just go all over the place. And so he became the perfect vehicle. So I start with the locations and what in the trivia and what I want to get in. And there's some stuff in this book about Cool Hand Luke. That's something else I found out. I'm like, what? That was a Florida prison camp? Because, I always thought it was like southern Georgia, Mississippi, chain gang, southern, because it was very, but it wasn't. And then if you say that, someone might say, oh, well, it's just, North Florida, probably just under the border, like, L.A., is lower Alabama, what they call Panhandle over there. It's actually way down the peninsula. It's way into, it's in Lake County. And I enlisted I found the place. And it was what they did, Hollywood for Cool Hand Luke, they took, Don Pierce was an inmate there on the chain gang, and he wrote the novel of the same name. And Hollywood came and took copious photos and rebuilt it out in California, which is, again, another one of his pet peeves. But but all this is in the book, and but what they did see is the floor didn't match. So what they did is they stole a bunch of our Spanish moss and boxed it up. And if you watch the movie, there's Spanish moss hanging incongruously from these trees that in California make no sense, And so, but anyway, I called the Leesburg Library, and I said, and they're very supportive, and they like the books. And so I said, I'm working on some research, and I've hit a wall, And I said, I just want to find the location and I found the actual, it's like prison camp 37 or whatever, or road prison 37. And so I said, I'm trying to find the location. I just want to see, it's probably all overgrown. And then they're like, we're on the case. They were really great. And so they went, and then I got an email later on. They said, we don't know what you're going to find, but we contacted some old, one of the older residents here who knows a lot of the history and stuff. And they gave me very specific, and yet I was doing 2 book signings in like Leesburg and Mount Dora. And then about like halfway between, I had some extra time. And so I took a hook down, I think it was Route 19, went through Tavares and went out into the countryside, and then went even deeper to where there was nothing. And there was they said, literally, the only way to find it was like, okay, go 8.2 miles, and then there's a dirt road off to the right. And so waited, took the dirt road, went out, driving, nothing, And then like and I'm driving, and I got like this, if you see this, because I put a lot of miles on my car driving around. So I want a comfortable car. So I've got this like Arctic white Lincoln Town car. It's like driving around in your living room. I mean, you get out, you can drive for 500 miles, you get out, you're not stiff. I mean, it's great. So I drive down this dirt road way out in the middle of nowhere, Lake County, below Tavares, and I'm out there, and the road's getting narrower, and the only thing I see is the look on her face was this woman sitting on the steps of his trailer, bouncing a baby on her knee, just watching this white Lincoln. And I just saw it, and I'm like, nah. So I headed down, and then pretty soon, of course, I love this, And so I'm driving down, and the dirt road's getting narrower, and the branches are starting to scrape the sides of the car, and pretty soon the road it was just a gradation where it didn't stop. It just kind of petered out to where, like, I'm just driving in the woods now. So I couldn't turn around, so I put the car in reverse, and I'm backing up. And so I back up when about a mile or whatever. And so now, if the woman didn't give me a strange look when she saw this white Lincoln going through, now she's seeing a white Lincoln backing up, right? And so, but she was so wonderful. She goes, and so I get out of the car, and she goes, "You look like you're looking for something. Can I help you?" And I said, "Well," and I kind of was thinking about, how do I frame this? Yeah, I write this book about this crazy serial killer. No, that's not the way to approach this. Like, so I said, I'm really into Florida history and, a lot of culture, and I understand, there was a famous movie with Paul Newman. It was made around here based upon this road prison, and I'm looking, and he goes, "Oh, you're practically on top of it." And then there's like a whole area kind of really high brush or whatever that kind of extended a little ways, but she goes, "It's just on the other side of that little hedgerow or whatever of that scrub." So what you do is, it's funny, what you do is keep backing up, and then there's going to be a spur, a little fork, and you take that other little fork and you go up, and I did, and I went up, and there was a gate, and I got my camera out, and it's an empty field, it's the state of Florida, keep out, whatever. And there was all these oaks with the Spanish moss, but there was nothing out there, And so I figured, well, it's cool just to find the spot. But so then I'm like walking along the fence with the camera, and there were these oak trees. And I had watched the movie very carefully just before this trip, knowing that they had given me the directions. And so I went out there, and as I looked around, and I swear, of course, this will tell you a lot about me, and I'll try to be calm when I explain this. This is the sort of thing, like other people, need to see, a big Broadway show or whatever. This made my day. As I was walking, and the oak trees were initially blocking the view, but the warden's house is still standing. That's the only thing left, and remember how what we have here is a failure to communicate, famous line and everything. And so it was like, so I got my zoom, I zoomed in as close as I could. I took pictures of the warden's house, and I looked back, and it was like amazing, because they really matched it in the movie. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, So see, but I stayed, I obeyed the law, but Serge, no, he sees, I got a key to this gate, and he gets out the bolt cutters, and he goes in, and of course, then he's like, oh, this is so, he gets all excited, and then of course, there's banging in the trunk, and he goes, yeah, he's calling and says, yeah, I think he wants out, and so he, I'm giving this away in the book, well, I won't give away the final end of the scene, but so Serge lets him out of the trunk, and he brings him up to the porch, and of course, he's at, the Cool Hand Luke, prison area, so he's got to break Paul Newman's record eating boiled eggs, right? But he forces his captive to join him in this competition, except he can't get his hand on that many boiled eggs in a hurry, so he goes to Publix and he gets deviled eggs. So we got to make it Florida, so anyway, that's what you have in store for you for this one. So I brought it back around from the next book to this one. So. How long is this stream? Do I need to fill time? Okay, I didn't want to go over, don't want to go under. Okay, well, let me, give me some more questions.
Who do you read?
Who would I read? Well, I'll tell you what, I really love to read the Florida writers. However, when you're writing a book, I know I talk to other people, like Randy or whatever, is you don't read anything even remotely in your field because everyone's kind of paranoid about an influence seeping in or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I have all these first editions before I was even published of, from like Edmund Buchanan to like the ones I mentioned, James Hall and Hyacin and the whole gang, and Charles Willeford, the late Charles Willeford had a great Hoke Mosley series, where one was Miami Blues was made into a movie with Alec Baldwin. I got a first edition of that, and I just completed a hardcover collection of the Travis McGee series by John D. McDonald, who was the godfather of the Florida mystery scene. So, and I'll tell you, there's one book when I don't have necessarily time to read, but I will grab 92 in the Shade by Thomas McGuane down up, because and here's the thing where I got to kind of remember. I really, and of course people nod, yeah, we can see that. I really don't care about plot when I'm reading a book. It's about the language, and it's about the turns of phrases, and I take down 92 in the Shade if I just only have a few minutes one night and kind of want to be inspired, and I'll just open to a random page and I'll just start reading, and it's like, because his language and the time he takes, and it's just amazing how. I was trying to think of a line, but I don't want to misquote it because it's so good. But it's like, just find brandy, and you just swirl it and sniff it, and so yeah, I'll just read a page or two and then just close it and go, oh, it's great, And like, now how do I even sit down and try to write my next page, tomorrow morning? But but it'll inspire you to try, and maybe up your game. But that's my favorite Florida novel of all time, if that helps. Yes.
Like the gentleman back there, I haven't read all the books, so I apologize if this is all
No.
covered. But
there is no sin in this search world.
now that all the information has kind of come to light, that there's like all the backdoor deals with the new ballpark for the Miami Marlins, has Surge got some something in store for the people who made that happen, especially now that the Orange Bowl has been torn down?
Well, see, that the back end of that is the part that I get it, that you got to tear down stuff like that, but that was iconic in my mind, with the open end zone and the palm trees, and you see the films of Super Bowl III and just all the great games that were played there over the years, and all the great, Larry Zonka and all those people, the no-name defense playing there. It's like, that's the part that bugs me. But what are you going to do? They tear down everything like that. That's great. But anyway, let me do this.
The lousy deal that the taxpayers got.
I know. Well, you guys, I'm sure you guys know far more about it because you got the coverage down here from the local. But yeah, exactly. If that happened, they tore down the big sombrero, the old football stadium. We still hadn't finished paying for it, and they tore it down to build the new one. It's just. The overall theme is that sports owners are there's serial killers and pedophiles, and then there's sports team owners. They're the worst. They're the worst human beings that that in the planet. So,
Is it above or below lawyers?
Lawyers, lawyers aren't. Lawyers are like any other 100 people on the street. It's like there's good ones, bad ones, and if you need, and I say that because I had a lot of exposure to lawyers because I covered the court beat, so I knew every prosecutor, practically every defense attorney. I covered actually criminal courts, and so I got to know them. And they run the gamut. There's the scum, and then there's the guys that friends.
Trying to make a lawyer joke.
I know. Well, well, in this case, Serge actually says, he wants to be a lawyer, and he says, but it's not fair, just because I forgot to go to law school. So, but I won't give away the rest of it. But well, listen, thank you very much. I'm going to hang out and talk. And
thank you, Tim. All right. Sure.
Where are your
Yeah, I was going to announce that in a second. Sure. All right, folks. So then, if there are no more questions, a reminder for our internet audience watching at home. You still have time to call the number on your screen, purchase a copy of Shark Skin Sweet. We will get Tim to sign that for you, and we will ship it to wherever you are in the U.S. free of charge. Also, a reminder that all of our live streamed events are archived. So if you don't get a chance to watch it live, you can visit the Books and Books website, go to the live streaming link, and every event that we have broadcast from here at the store will be saved there for you to watch at your convenience. So for those of you here in the house, we have Shark Skin Sweet as well as many of Tim's previous books for sale in the front room over there. He's going to be signing at the table over there to the left of the podium, and it's always so much fun when he drops by. Please give Tim another hand. Thank you. Thanks, Tim.